Welcome to Retrobot, the YouTube channel where we feed a friendly space robot a diet of pure nostalgia. I'm Clay, and today we're doing something a little bit different. As a lifelong tinkerer and do-it-yourselfer and industrial designer, then I have done a lot of kit bashing on my toys. That's fixing toys and changing them when there's something about them that I don't like, that I feel like it would be better some other way, repaints and all that stuff. And oftentimes people ask me how I do the stuff that I do. So, since I'm involved in a couple different projects right now, I thought I'd turn on the camera and give you the opportunity to see some of the stuff that I'm doing, and you can ask me questions in the chat. And also, if you're watching this after the fact, I realize it's live right now, but it's going to stay on Retrobot. So if you're watching this just as a regular video and you have questions or comments, please feel free to put them in, because I watch the comments and I try to get back to them quickly, and I'm always happy to talk about things. And even if you have recommendations, I'm always happy to hear other people's ideas and thoughts about things, and share that with other people. My goal is for you to get the best information, even if it's something that's different than something that I said. I'm allowed to be wrong about something, and some of this stuff is based on preference and experience, so you might know something that I don't, or you might have something that you just like better, and that's okay. If you know something, feel free to put it in the comments. Starhound says hi. Hi, Starhound. Sorry I didn't do a live stream last night. I was still in a little bit of recovery mode from my second shot, but I've gotten my 2 shots, and so now I'm feeling pretty good. And so apparently we are getting a little bit of random interference. I'm not sure why, but my technical wizard, i.e. Monica, is trying to figure it out, and hopefully we'll get that ironed out. So anyway, today's topic is all about mold making. I have been molding some parts for the Della Duck project, which I know that I already built the Della Duck figure for Monica, but we are making a couple extras for some very special people that asked for them, and so I'm in the process of building those. And I decided that one of the things I was going to do was mold some parts. It's just going to make things easier for me, and hopefully we'll see how well this goes. This isn't a promise, but it is an intent. And oh, Tracy's here. Hi, Tracy. I was just talking to Tracy on Messenger, and now she's here. It's always good to see you. Like, well, I'm not really seeing you, but you're seeing me. And I'm looking good right now. I didn't even shave this morning. I got up, mowed the lawn, and I've been going ever since. But so yeah, we are talking about molding stuff, and in my intent with this is not just to finish these extra 2 custom figures, but maybe create some molds that I can reproduce parts and be able to sell some people upgrade kits that they can use to create their own Della Duck figures. That's my intent. We'll see how well it works out. The other thing is that Ty Guy was asking us about getting a wheelie figure. They're a little bit pricey on the secondary market. And it's like, you know, paying $20 for this on eBay, I wouldn't do it. But we just happen to have a local toy store, a vintage toy store called D&E Collectibles. And no, we're not, they don't sponsor us, but I like them. They're cool guys, and they've got a great shop. It's in Sharpsburg, and that's in the Pittsburgh area. If you're ever in the Pittsburgh area and you want to see all sorts of very, very cool vintage toys, then stop in at D&E Collectibles because they're awesome. They did have a wheelie, a Gen 1 wheelie, which they gave me a little bit of a deal on. I got this for $5. And so this is for Tie Guy, but you see it's missing the canopy. There's no windshield over the face, which there's an awful lot of robot face over there. Oh, it was the laptop? Huh. Okay, so Monica has figured out the interference. It was that we have a laptop on the table. I don't know why. So I wanted, of course, if Starhound's going to get his own wheelie, I wanted him to get... Oh, Tie Guy, yeah, sorry. It's not you, Starhound. Oh, and Victoria Ann, or Victoria Ann, says... Oh, it says, hey, it's Selena! Hi, Selena! Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever! Are you keeping Tracy in line? I hope so, because, you know, she kind of needs it. So I wanted to make a windshield for Wheelie, and so to do that, I made a mold of, you know, this windshield just snaps right out. You know, it just pulls apart and you can pop it in. And so I created a mold, and then I did this test casting, which worked out pretty well. Let me put this on the side camera, and you can see that the shape came out really, really nice. I tried mixing some carbon in there, actually some charcoal that was left over in our fire pit. And you can see that it just kind of left little gray flecks. It didn't really blend. I was trying to get some kind of a gray hue. So we're gonna try another attempt here on camera. And I think that I'm gonna do that first before I talk about specific products or anything. That way you can see what it is that we're talking about first. And then we'll go back, and I know that it seems like I'm doing things backwards, like wouldn't it be better to show setting up the mold and all that stuff, but I feel like without getting to see the end product, it doesn't really connect in your head. So I'm going to show you the result first, and then we'll talk about how we got there. So we've got the mold right here, and I have... a little portion cup. I save these from medicine bottles, and I think that you can get them really cheap online, or you can just get Dixie cups. But yeah, I save these from medicine bottles, and I've got a ton of them at this point. And they're great for mixing stuff and reusable. And so I've got my my casting resin, which I'm using this Smooth Cast 300 from Smooth On. And oh, hello Tie Guy! I'm so glad that you're here. We are going to mold you a canopy for your wheelie, and we're doing it live on camera. So this should be fun. I hope that it works. Little disclaimer while I'm getting these things out. I didn't do a lot of molding in school when I was doing my industrial design classes. The product development track didn't do a lot of molding. If I had gone into special effects, I would have done a ton of molding, and I never really got great at it. There are some people that are masters at molding. Some of the people that I work with are absolutely phenomenal molders. And I can do it. I understand it, but that doesn't mean that I'm good at it. And, oh, look, Wesley has decided that it's time to come over and see what's going on. Hello, Wesley. I'm so glad that you're here because nothing is better in some plastic parts than cat hair. So, you gonna get on here? Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is Wesley, everyone. He's my friend. And he is soft and warm, and he is the ultimate lap cat. Yeah, you gonna lay down? You gonna lay down, buddy? Here you go. Yeah. Oh, there he is. There he is. Bet you didn't know that this was gonna be a cat video, right? That's him. Internet star Wesley. Oh yeah, is that the spot? Is that the spot? Gosh, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. It's the good stuff. Shake it off. Shake it off. Want me to get your face? I'll get your face. He's a funny cat. He actually likes it when I rub his face. I've never had a cat that wanted me to rub his face before, but he loves having his face rubbed. So, all right. So, this is the Smoothcast 300. When I first got into molding, I was using stuff called Alumilite. And it was another two-part resin that made rigid parts. But I think that this stuff is a little bit easier to work with. It seems to be a little bit more reliable in terms of making nice parts, and so that's what I got. I did put the links for all the stuff that I'm using in the description of this video, and no, they're not sponsoring me. So you won't hurt my feelings if you say, well, I use Monstercast, and I think that that's way better. Why aren't you using that? I got on Amazon, and I wanted to find... See, here, I'm doing it. I'm talking about what I bought before actually showing you. I said I wasn't going to do that, so I'm not going to do that. I'm stopping myself. The way that this stuff works... Before we go into the hows and whys, I'm just going to show you me using it. So you take one of the parts, which here's what I've done. I have punched just a couple little holes. One is an air hole, one is a pore hole. And so I don't need a lot because there's not a whole lot of space in this mold to fill. So strangely enough, there's cat hair on here. I do need, this portion cup doesn't have a lot of lines, so I'm just going to go right there and then right there. Now, technically speaking, if you really want to do this stuff precisely, you get yourself a little scale, a little digital scale, and you measure these out by weight. And you put your cup on, and then you zero it out. That way it's not taking into account the weight of the cup with your measurements. But honestly, I found that it works fine, especially for the kind of stuff that I'm doing, to just sort of eyeball it and do 50-50. But yeah, if you really want to get reliable results that where your parts come out exactly the way that you want them to, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I've never been a great molder, is because I do stuff like this where I know the right way to do it and then I do it my way. That could be a problem, but nonetheless. So I've got my, one of my parts here, and here's something else that I do. I experiment, and I'm going to do a little experiment here, because now I know that you can find tinting materials for plastics. I'm just going to see what happens if I take a little bit of enamel paint, because I want to get that gray. You see, the original one is gray. This resin cast in bright white. It's a really nice bright white. And so if I get a little bit of black in there, then hopefully it will come out gray. Now, like I said, this is an experiment. I don't know if enamel paint is even going to mix with this resin. I'm just thinking that since enamel paints, which are kind of hard to come by these days, enamel model paints are pretty much have gone the way of the dinosaur, but enamel paints are oil-based, and I know that most plastics are oil-based. So that's why I'm thinking that this might work. And Amanda Maceo has joined us. Hey guys, from Behave of at the Machiavellic and me. We can't be in the stream today, sorry, but we'll be happy to be here later. Thank you for stopping by, Amanda, and tell Machiavellic that I have said hi. I didn't even do a stream last night, so you're good. This is a chill stream, okay? Very low bar for entry. And oh, I didn't check my little marquee that says sponsors welcome is only half showing on the screen. But it actually says sponsors welcome, just because I'm not proud. I would be tickled pink to have sponsors, but I just don't have any yet. So I'm gonna just take. Here's what I'm doing. I'm taking just a drop of black. Yeah, that might be enough right there. And let's see what happens when I mix this with part B. And see, notice that I'm mixing in my tinting stuff before I try to combine the second part of the casting resin. And I don't know if it makes a difference. I don't think it makes a difference. You notice that I used part B first. That's just because this is the bottle that I picked up. I don't know that it makes a difference which one you add to which. I can't imagine that it would. If you are like some of those people that I work with that are really, really good at molding, and you say, no, it absolutely makes a difference, what are you doing? Then feel free to comment, and I will bow to your superior experience. But so far, I haven't seen any issues. So here we go. You see that we have managed to. It's actually looking pretty dark right now. I hope it's not too dark, but we'll see. We will see. All right, so there you go. That is the first half of the two-part solution, and now I'm going to put away my stuff. If this works, then that's really good, because that means that I can just use enamel paints to tint my white plastic and make parts of any color that I want. That would be really nice. So here we go. Once again, you see that I have just poked small holes. It gives me a lot of control when I'm pouring. So we're going to go here, and you see I've got my little line there. So I'm just going to try and cover that line with the second part, and then I need to go quickly. Okay, so there we go. We've got the second part in, and now I need to work quickly. Honey, can I have a portion cup? I forgot to get a second portion cup. If she's there. Oh, she is. If not, there's some in the bathroom on the shelf next to the sink. Lowest shelf back corner, I have a stack of them. Now the nice thing is, and this is one of the things I didn't really like about the Alumilite, is that it would kick off very, very quickly, and it didn't really give you a lot of working time. It seems like the Smooth Cast 300 gives you a little bit more working time, and that's a little bit advantageous. So here we go. And now I've got my stuff. Okay, I have some, I have syringes, but I'm not going to use them. What I'm going to do is I've got a fill hole right here, and I'm just going to pour right in there, and I'm going to kind of flex the mold a little bit. In fact, I need to, here, I'm going to do this on the side camera. Side camera. There we go. And this is going to get a little bit messy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Get down in there. Get down in there. And you can see that there's some bubbles coming out, and that's good. That's the air bubbles. We want the air bubbles to come out. And I'm just going to kind of plunge a little bit. These are some of the vent holes that I've put into this mold to make sure that air doesn't get trapped in there. And now I can... And you see I'm getting more bubbles. So we want to make sure that we get all those bubbles out. Yeah. I should probably be wearing protective gloves because this stuff is getting right on my skin. And that's not necessarily good. You can see it's starting to kick. Look at that. Look, it's changing color. Okay, so, okay, well, I'm gonna sit that down right there and just sit that right there and then wipe my thumb on my sacrificial paper here. Blah. So there we go, and so I'm guessing that the Smoothcast 300 has a working time of about 3 minutes. That's what I'm thinking. So while that is setting up, we can talk a little bit about why I chose the products that I did. Oh, and it looks like my friend Don, which some of you have probably seen him on this channel, helping me to host. His screen name is Brick Woad. He says, just so you know, Clay, enamel testers paints are available at my local hobby shop, and I think Michael's as well. I'm amazed that you're able to still get enamel ones, because at my Michael's you can only get testers acrylic paints, and yeah, everything has gone to acrylics. But if you can still get a set of enamel testers, then yeah, let me know how much they are, because I might have you pick up some, like a set of, the basic colors would be great, because mine are very, very old and getting chunky. So, and Tracy remembers Dawn. So here's what I look for when I was searching online for mold making materials. I was looking for something that gave me a little bit of a longer setup time. That gives me more time to mix. And here's what I've noticed. You can get casting, this is the mold making rubber. It is silicone. And this is, they put a sticker over top of the words. Wait here, let's just remove the stickers. So this is the Mold Star 15 Slow Platinum Silicone. That's a lot of words. And essentially I was reading the descriptions and looking for things that that indicated that it was a slower setup time. There is a there are all sorts of different options for mold making silicone, and they can get very pricey. I want to say that that each kit, this kit was what, about 20 bucks? Was it about 20 bucks? I want to say that it was like 20 bucks, which is pretty good for the amount of material that you get. Each of these things is, let's see, is 1 pound of material. So this is 2 pounds of mold making rubber. That's not bad for 20 bucks. There are other brands. Smooth On is very well known in the industry. They make pretty good stuff. Kind of a mainstay of mold making. I know that there's another company that a lot of the people that I work with used called Monstercast, and they love Monstercast. They rave about it. I get the impression that that is a step up. I don't know that for sure though, because I've never really used it. Like I said, I went on to Amazon and I looked up mold making stuff and I found the Smooth On, and I've worked with Smooth On. I'm familiar with Smooth On, so Smooth On is what I bought. So I wanted something that had a longer setup time. And here's the reason why. I used to use this mold making rubber that was called a quick cast, and it would set up in a couple of hours. I think that it was ready to use within like 4 hours. But the downside is that the mold would also break down faster. It was a little more brittle. It would crack easily. It would tear, and for molding stuff, especially irregularly shaped parts, you want a mold that is pliable, that is now if you're just doing one-offs, like, technically speaking, how many of these wheelie windshields do I really need? Probably not a lot. So if I was just doing a quick one-off of a windshield to replace a part and I'm never going to need that mold again, then using a quick setting rubber is a great option. But it just saves you time. With this mold making rubber, I pour my molds and then I wait a day. I wait a full day and then they're ready to go. So, but the molds are nice quality, and they hold up pretty well, so that you can do many castings before the mold starts to show signs of wear. So, and thank you, Joy. So Joy was just saying that she's glad that I'm feeling better. Yeah, my second shot kicked my butt pretty hard. It kicked it really hard. I felt like I had the flu, like bad flu. I had a bit of a fever. I was shaking. There was part of the evening where I'm just sitting in my chair, and I've got blankets on me, and I feel so cold, and I'm just like whimpering silently to myself while watching old episodes of Young Justice. It was pretty darn sad, and that's all I wanted to do. That's just, I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to work on anything. I just wanted to sit there and whimper and watch cartoons, and if a cat got on my lap, that was good too. So yeah, I am feeling a lot better, and so it's good. It's good. So anyway, this is also an AB compound. Notice, very similar. You've got your A and your B. You mix them in equal portions. Now here's the right way to do a mold, and that's different from the way I did my molds. The right way to do a mold is you have your parts set up, and we'll talk a little bit more about how I set up my parts when I pull out that windshield that we just cast. But you set up your part, you pour in your stuff, you mix it just like we mixed the casting resin, and then you pour it in. And what I usually do is I will pour it, and I'll kind of pull it here. I will have my mold, and I will pour it, and I will lift up. And what that does is I'm pouring very slowly, and I'm creating the thinnest stream that I can. And the reason that I do that is because that reduces the air bubbles that get trapped in the mold. And so if I got very thin stream here, as I just let it coat the part and let it flow in, and make sure, then I'll move the mold around. With this larger mold that I did, I actually covered it and then tipped it sideways and moved it around to make sure that the mold making rubber could get into all the little crevices and that there weren't any air bubbles trapped in there. Now, this is where people that are good at molding and do this kind of stuff often, what they will do is they will then take their mold while it's setting up, and they will put it in a vacuum chamber. And I know what you're thinking. I don't have a vacuum chamber just laying around. And you know what? I don't have a vacuum chamber just laying around. But actually, a vacuum chamber is not a hard thing to improvise. We had one at work that was made out of a large piece of PVC pipe that they glued the pipe down to a PVC platform, and they made sure that it was airtight, and then they had a lid and they had a rubber gasket on there. And really, anything, like, you could make a vacuum chamber out of an old plastic peanut butter jar, and or something that's going to give you an airtight seal, and then you're going to have to put a nozzle on there that you can attach a pump to. And it has to be a pump that has the option of being able to pull air. It has to be a pump where it has both an input and an output. Most pumps, like a bicycle pump, has an output, and it just sucks air in from vents that are built onto the pump. But I have an inflator pump for my inflatable pool, and it's got both an input and an output. And so you can hook a hose up to that input port, and so when you pump the pump, it's going to suck in air rather than blowing it out. So you need a pump that has an input nozzle, and you need an airtight chamber with some kind of a port that allows you to connect the airtight chamber to your pump, and then you just pump out the air. Now, if you want to go the extra mile, you can put a little air pressure gauge on there, or actually a vacuum gauge, so that you can see how much vacuum you're pulling, but it's not complicated. And then at work, they also have it on this table with a motor, and it vibrates. And what I've heard some people talk about is they put their molds on top of their washing machine while they're doing laundry. It's as simple as that. You don't have to go high tech in order to do these things. But what that does is it shakes out, as you're shaking the mold, and you've got that vacuum, it's going to pull the air bubbles out of the silicone, because you don't want air bubbles in your silicone. They will show up in your parts, and they will give you little beads and little pits when you cast your parts. You don't want that. I didn't do any of that stuff. But I know about it, and if I was really, really trying to make really good quality molds, these are the things that I would do. I just poured this stuff, and I flexed it, and I tapped it, did a lot of tapping like that and like that to kind of just shake out the air bubbles. But so Ty Guy is asking the question, for the pump, what about a vacuum cleaner or shop vac? That is going to be high capacity pumping. And what I would be concerned with is that when you hook that up to a vacuum chamber, what's going to happen is it's going to go, and you'll hear the motor go, and then that motor is going to be fighting and fighting, because those kinds of vacuum cleaner and a shop vac are designed to move large volumes of air at low pressure. And what you want is just the opposite, something that removes small volumes of air at high pressure. So my only concern, like, if you've just got an old vacuum that you don't care about, then it would probably help. It would definitely suck air, but you're going to put a lot of strain on the motor of that vacuum cleaner, and potentially burn out your motor after, if you're using it regularly for that, especially for long periods of time. That's the downside. And you're not going to get a large amount of vacuum pressure with a shop vac. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would probably, I think that you can go online and you can find vacuum pumps that are electrical, and I don't think that they're terribly expensive. Or I would even maybe get a hand pump or something and just do it the old-fashioned way, just because anything that you can do to create, you have to get a good enough pump that air isn't going to be leaking back in faster than you can pump it out. But other than that, it depends on how much molding you're going to be doing. If you're going to be doing a lot of this, then it's worth investing in. And look at the descriptions, look at the reviews. There's a lot of stuff online where people will tell you what they use and what they recommend and what they've tried that doesn't work. And so if you're thinking about getting into this stuff, then look online, you'll find it. So that's a little bit about the mold making rubber. The casting resin, of course, I got this. This is the liquid plastic. It's this is a fast setting. I wanted to get something that was white, because white is easy to tint, and I can make it any color that I want. And also, since I bought this because I knew I was going to be working on the Della Duck project, she's a white duck. Most of her parts are white. So, and if I can tint it to make the white orange, great. I've got casting plastic that will work for both. I have also used, of course, the Alumilite that I used to use back in the day. The base color was this tan color, which only looks like Alumilite. It's the only color. I think that that the visual spectrum of everything on our planet, that tan that Alumilite would come in, is the only thing that is exactly that color. It doesn't look like anything else other than Alumilite. And because it's kind of a milky brown, sort of like a bad cup of coffee, you know, like you had a cup of coffee and you put in a couple of those creamer packets, but they've been on the shelf for like 2 years, and then they turn the coffee a strange, slightly greenish color. That's what color the Alumilite was, and I didn't really like that because, you know, then you have to paint it. You can't tint it because it's already brown, so colors don't come out very well. So yeah, I wasn't really a fan. And then I got black Alumilite, which looked great. It looked great, but for some reason I just didn't get really good castings off of that. It was always, and I don't know that it's because like I said, I'm not a great molder. It could have been user error. I will be the first to say that my bad results with the black casting plastic were probably user error, but I just never got good castings off of it. So yeah, instead I got the Smooth Cast 300, which is still a fast setting plastic, which we have seen because you saw how quickly this stuff cast, and so now we've got this stuff, and it's rigid. Now it will continue to get more rigid as time goes on, but you can see, look at that. You know, that is really cool. I love that, and you'll notice that I've got bolts in there. The bolts are because for a part this big, you know, I have it in there like that, and so it takes up a lot of volume, but I don't need that big of a, you know, to be using that much rubber, so I just put the bolts in to fill space, you know. So we're going to take this out of here, and we're going to see how we did. The color is not too bad. It's only a little bit lighter than the original. It is a bit lighter, but not too bad. We might, depending on how this comes out, who knows? This could be Ty Guy's windshield. So I'm gonna break this off, and I'm getting pieces of plastic on my cat. Sorry, Wesley. Poor cat. He doesn't need to have plastic bits on him. Yeah, you're a sweet kitty. So, all right, so we've got this, just kind of peel off the plastic. I actually really like the peel off bits that you get. Now, once again, it seems to be a general rule of thumb that the longer that it takes for an AB compound to set, the stronger the resulting substance is. You saw that I was able to break these pieces off pretty easily. So it's not the strongest plastic in the world. It's not bad. I was breaking it at places that were very thin. But I suspect, based on my experiences with other materials, that if you get a casting plastic that has a longer working time, then the resulting plastic is probably stronger. That's usually the trade-off. So here we go. Here is our mold, and I'm going to, let's see. I just need to get up under the lip and start separating this from the silicone. I go back and forth between whether I say silicone or silicon. I guess the silicons are the evil versions of the Technobots. See, the silicons! Yeah! And if you're trying to work with silicon and and it ruins your project, that would be the wrath of silicone. I know. I'm sorry. I feel dirty. Okay, so here I've gotten underneath it, and I've gotten to the point. So you can see where I've cut this mold, and notice what I did here. When I cut it open, I cut teeth into it. And here, let me show this on the other camera so that you can get a good view. So I cut it with an X-Acto knife. It cuts really easily. And I cut it with these teeth. And what that does is that helps the parts align to each other. Now, the other thing with this particular mold is that I have this plastic bit here. And that's just propping up the piece, and I'm going to show you what we pull out of here. This is the trick is that that there's a lot going on, a lot more than you would expect with a part that is so tiny. The difficulty in this case is that because I've got bolts and stuff, and I've now got this hard resin, it's stuck to the bolts, and it doesn't want to let go. Which, you know, that's a bit of a problem. So, and I don't necessarily want to destroy this mold in the process of removing this part. Ideally, you want to be able to save your mold. So. All right, here we go. I'm able to kind of break the top a little bit. There we go. There we go. So I'm able to pull this away and kind of break it away from the top of the mold, which is good. That's good. Okay, that's what we want. All right, so I've taken this out, and now that nothing's holding on to these holes, what I can do is I designed this thing so that I could eject this through the bottom of the mold. And that's where, now we're going to talk about prepping your part as I'm pulling this out, because you have to think about how your part is going to be molded, how it's going to be removed, because you don't want to destroy the mold in the process. You know, you want everything to be able to come out. And so here's what I do. I've got the part in here. I guess I should show this on the other camera. I've got the part in here, and I can pull that part like that, but there's still this, and this is one of my air ducts. This is essentially a sprue. It's a makeshift sprue, and I need to either detach that or push it out. So, and if I had planned better, this would come out easier, but I didn't plan that well because I haven't molded anything in a long time. At least I hadn't when I made this mold. All right, so we have now broken this free. So that's the windshield, but let's get the rest of this thing out. And there's a little bit of schmutz in there, so we'll get the schmutz out. All right, so here's what you can see. Now, when I set up my part, and you see I got air bubbles, so this part is no good. That's a shame, but you know what? It's a little bit lighter than I wanted it anyway, so we can try again. But you see how there's an air bubble here. We don't want the air bubble. Now, when I set this up, what I did was I wanted to make sure that I could fill from the bottom, and I could have the thing pour in, get all the plastic to pour in from the bottom, and then these are your three trouble areas. You've got a peak here, a peak over here, and a peak here. So I wanted to make sure that there were vents, which I used hot glue. I just took my original part and I squirted some hot glue and built little makeshift sprues that went to the end of the part, and then I had them in there propped up on this little thing in the cup, and then I filled up the thing with casting resin. But you can see that we have gotten some air bubbles, so we're going to try this again. But this time, this is what I meant to do, but I didn't. I prepared for the live stream and forgot this step. So, oh, very good, Joy. Joy says, Silicon, a convention for silly people. Ha ha! It's Silicone 2021. So, you may remember that when I did that last casting, there was a moment when I looked around, and it's because I meant to have one of these ready. This is a syringe. And this, ideally, will allow me to inject the plastic into the mold rather than that whole sloppy pouring thing. So, yeah, you can get these online, and you can get them in different sizes. And there's no needles here. These ones are just, these are used for all sorts of things. Model makers use these all the time. I've used these to make hydraulics for various projects. So you connect a syringe like this with a vinyl tube to another syringe. You fill the whole system with water, and then you have one that's open and one that's closed. Make sure that there are no air bubbles. And then when I push on this one, then the other one extends and back and forth. It's makeshift hydraulics. It's really cool. All right. So we got our little windshield, and it's not gonna work for us. But it wasn't a bad test. You can see that it's not too far off on the color, but I would like it to be a bit darker. So I'm gonna make sure that there's no schmutz in my mold. So here's something that I noticed. There is a little piece of some plastic that's in there. And I think that's from my first casting that I did with this mold. And that created, I noticed a little divot on here. Let's show this on the other camera. So, you see that little divot there? That is because I didn't properly clean out my mold, and there was just a little bit of plastic residue left in there. And of course that means when I made this casting, it left a divot. So that's no good. That is no good. So this time I'm going to make sure that my mold is cleaned out and doesn't have any little schmutzy bits in it. And actually, here, let me do this. I've got a toothbrush here. I save old toothbrushes and I use them to clean up toys and parts. They're great. In a lot of ways, a toothbrush is handier than a lot of the little brushes that you get at hardware stores like Harbor Freight. I mean, I've got a ton of those brushes too, but toothbrushes, you can get them in different, you can get the soft ones, medium, and hard, which is great for little model work like this. And you can get them at the dollar store. Get a pack of 4 for $1. Having disposable, not disposable because I use these for years at a time before I throw them away. But having access to cheap toothbrushes of different softnesses is very useful when you're cleaning up toys or working on molds or anything like that. So yeah, dollar store toothbrushes. All right, I don't see cat hair. There's cat hair in there. Of course there is. There we go. All right, no more cat hair. No more cat hair. I think that we've gotten rid of the mold residue. All right, so we will put this back in the little thing. Oh, let me put in my little plastic plug. And I don't have to have this in here, but it saves me from having to use more resin to fill up that mold cavity. And so this time, this is going to be good stuff. Okay, I'm telling you, this one's going to work. Ty Guy says toothbrush is great for cleaning bathrooms as well, especially space around sink and faucet. Ah, okay. I use a toothbrush to clean the toilet, and since that gets dirty pretty often, I just use Monica's. I don't really do that. I'm getting such a look from the cat. He's like, "What did you say? What was that?" What an accusing stare. I mean, you missed it. He was just staring at me like, really? Really? You are such a disappointment. Wesley loves me, but he is embarrassed by me. It's like, humans are so stupid. Oh, gosh. I love you. You pet me. You clean my poop box. But gosh, why are you so stupid? Alright, so gotta get the resin out of my portion cup. There we go. Alright, it doesn't really matter that there's stuff around the outside, but so that cleans up pretty easy. And then you know, I never want to throw these away, but I have no use for it now. It's just, yeah, yes, Starhound. Wesley is having none of it. None of it. All right, so our mold is ready. We've still got our sacrificial workplace. Let me switch camera views. So we got this, and this is our fill hole right there. That's the big one. And there we go. So let's see. And this is the casting plastic. Just to be wacky, I'll put in part A first. Whoa! Here we go. I'm gonna put in some of the part A. Yeah, there we go, just up to the line. And I'm going to add more black paint since that one little dollop was not quite enough. So we'll do that. And then second dollop of black paint. What do you think, Ty Guy? Is 2 dollops of black paint enough? Do we need more? Because we were close. This is the last chance to find out. I think that 2 is enough. So, and now we take part B of the liquid plastic. All right, and we're going to fill up. Where's the line? Where's my line? Oh, there's my line. Okay, I found my line. So there's my line. Go. And we'll take that off. And now, all right, now I have to watch my time, and I'm gonna mix it. I'm mixing with Ty Guy. Trust my judgments. Have you met me? You have. All right, so I'm seeing my little timer thingy that says that I've been mixing for about 15 seconds. I don't want to take too long to mix because I want to make sure that I have time to suck it up into the syringe. I'm mixing with making small circles, but I'm holding the stick vertically. The reason why I'm mixing this way is to avoid like overlapping and mixing air into the plastic, because you don't want to do that. So, all right, we've been mixing for a good 30 seconds, so we will set that aside. And now we have our syringe, and we will just draw up all of this stuff into the syringe. There we go. And now we switch cameras, and I'm going to go right into that fill hole. Oh, actually, I need to get rid of the air that's in my syringe. So there we go. And now fill hole, and there we go. And I'm going to inject, and look how the plastic is just coming out of those vent holes. That is what we want. That is great. I shouldn't have pulled that all the way out. And see, if I had really been thinking, I should have tried to maybe put this in a bigger container so that I could overfill the mold and then kind of undulate it with the syringe and kind of, you know, pump plastic in, and then there we go. Oh, and we're getting, oh, okay, it's starting to kick. It's starting to kick. So now it'd be really nice to be able to reuse this syringe. So I'm going to, I don't always have a lot of success with being able to reuse the syringe. I'm going to let it kick a little bit so that it gets mostly solid, and then I'm going to open the syringe. You know, pull it back. There we go. Oh, wow. Huh. Okay, well, I was kind of hoping that it would pull the plastic back with it. We'll see if we can use this syringe again. But got a nice gray. Hopefully we don't have any air bubbles. All right, so I'm going to let that sit for a couple minutes. And now, while we're waiting, we can look at some of the other molds that I have, because the wheelie windshield is not the only thing that I've been trying to create. I am also making Della Duck parts. So, let's see, I think that this is just the leftover silicone that I didn't need. So this is just a chunk of rubber. Here's one thing about silicone. I don't have to throw this away. I can use this. That you remember in that first mold, I put in those bolts to just take up space. Well, if I had had one of these pieces of silicone, I could have dropped that, and that would have filled up space. And silicone bonds with silicone. And that's a comment that we got early on when Monica announced that we were doing this from Pale Heart on Twitter, is that if you have a silicone mold and you inject silicone, because like, okay, I want to make a silicone part, and you pump silicone into a silicone mold, you now have just a solid chunk of silicone. Silicone bonds to itself. So, and La Rascasse, yeah, I said that right, holy crap, says if you put the mold on something shaking, it would help with the air bubbles. Yeah, and see, that's what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about, how some people will put their molds on like a dishwasher, or at work we actually had a vibrating table with a vacuum chamber. But yes, you're absolutely right, La Racasse. Shaking it will get out the air bubbles. But yeah, so Pale Heart on Twitter, when Monica announced that we were doing this live stream about... I could see that, maybe. I mean, you could have it on a table and just start pounding on the table. Anything that's gonna have a vibration. It's nice when you have something that's automated. Like that's the reason why a washing machine is great, because it rumbles and it shakes and it does it for an allotted amount of time. But yeah, so Pale Heart had talked about the horror of pumping silicone into a silicone mold and the mess that was left because the silicone bonds to silicone. But I can save this, and then when I'm building a mold and I've got a lot of extra space that I want to fill, but I don't want to have to use more of this stuff, then I can just put pieces of an old mold back in and recycle it, and that works tremendously well. So that's something that you can do. So I have this mold, and this is just an open-faced mold, and we're going to pull that apart right now so that you can see it. Open face molds are great. When you can make a part with a single-sided mold, it makes everything easier. Everything is easier. If you've got a basically flat part, or a part that's shallow, doesn't have a whole lot of goofy shapes going on, then an open-faced mold, the success rate is much higher. The open-faced mold is your friend. So I have to get this out of this little portion cup here, and that's the trick. And of course, with the resin, you flex the thing and it just pops out. But the silicone flexes with the cup I guess maybe I could have used some of this. This is something else that I got. This is mold release. This is really, really useful when you're casting parts with plaster, like Ultracal or Hydrocal. Those are quick setting plasters, white gypsum cement that is oftentimes used for making rigid molds of stuff. And the nice thing about Ultracal and Hydrocal is that it's cheap. I mean, you get a lot of Hydrocal for the same amount that you would pay for 2 pounds of mold making rubber. But when you're using a rigid mold, pulling parts out of a rigid mold is not fun. Use mold release. Use it. And when you use it, use more of it. Because unlike silicone, stuff sticks to plaster. And so if you don't have mold release, and especially if there are any undercuts in your parts, you're done. You're done. It's a bad situation, and that's why I think that the silicone molds are so popular, because they're just so forgiving. There are some advantages when you have a plaster mold. But I think that in general, especially for people like me that don't do a whole lot of molding, that the silicone molds are pretty straightforward. So here we go. All right, I've managed to pull this out. All right, so I used a little dab of hot glue to stick this part to the bottom of that cup before pouring in my resin. But what I can do is, let's see, I've got my X-Acto blade here, or my hobby knife blade, and I'm just going to trim the silicone right away from the part. Just like that. I want to be careful. I don't want to cut out any chunks of silicone, but I'm just cutting off that little skin, because like I said, this is an open-faced mold. So that is a robot foot. And here, I'm just going to pop this out. And so there is my robot foot, and there is a mold of a robot foot, and that's going to work. That is going to work. It's just going to work. It's going to be good. I've got some good definition on this mold, so now you can see. So here, let me go to the side camera here, because I want to show you something. So you can see there were actually some little undercuts underneath these little straps that I glued on there. I kind of expected them to get filled in with glue, but there was an undercut, and you see how that silicone flowed under there and created this bridge. Now we don't want that, so I'm just going to cut that little piece out, because I don't need that. There we go. And yeah, you can see that mold's got a good shape to it. Now, the downside with an open-faced mold like this is that the top is just going to be, it's going to be a little bit irregular because of the shape of the plastic. But that's the bottom of her foot. And after I cast this part, I can just hit that with a flat file and make that nice and flat, and it'll take moments. So Ty Guy says the robot foot was just molding clay, or did you already have that foot? So okay, this foot, this is my original. This is something that I sculpted last night. You can see that it's actually made out of cardboard that's been soaked with super glue, and then I drilled it and filed it and glued on extra parts. So this is my original form. And then I made a mold of it last night. I poured the mold last night, and I'm just pulling out my original right now, and we're going to cast the part in just a few minutes here. But I wanted to show you this open face mold. So yeah, that is a Della Duck foot, robot foot, and this is being made a little bit differently than the robot foot that I made for Monica, because of course I made Monica's before they did the last episode. And then in the last episode, there's this amazing scene where Della Duck pulls off her robot leg and pulls off the foot and sticks it on the side and turns it into an axe. It's amazing. And she goes, you know, kind of wild, like hatcheting her enemies, because that's how badass Della Duck is. So of course, if I'm making more Della Duck figures, she has to have the axe foot. She just has to have the axe foot. And so I debated on how I was going to pull that off, whether I wanted it to be a hinged thing where you have the foot, and then you have the leg, and then the foot's here, and then it's on a hinge so that it can just go sideways like that. I decided that it would be easier for me to make it with a hole, and then the leg has a little peg on the back, which I can show you that too. Let's go ahead and show that. So that is this mold right here. I'm getting more mold stuff on my cat. Sorry, cat. He doesn't care. He says, mold things are a human concern. I'm a cat. I am thus above such trivial nonsense. So this is the mold for the leg, and so we're gonna pull that apart. And you see, I just made boxes out of cardboard, tape, and hot glue. The boxes that contain the molds are really not that important. And so, using cheap disposable materials, I've seen a lot of people will use Lego bricks. You'll get one of those flat platform pieces and then build walls around their parts to be able to pour their silicone in, and it works very well. So we're just tearing away the side walls here. Ah, there we go. That's easy. And now I can pop out the silicone part. And see, the nice thing about silicone is that the only thing that it sticks to is silicone. It doesn't stick to anything else. So it's a great molding material. So on this one, it's mostly an open-faced mold. Well, it's a one-part mold, sort of. But I have vent holes at both. Essentially they're fill holes / vent holes on either end, and then a vent hole right here. And so what I need to do is I need to cut into here, and I need to just slice right down. I'll show this on the other camera, because I need to get my part out. Oh, whoops. So I'm just going to cut right down through here and go down as far as the part, and very carefully cut down to the leg, And I can feel the part in there. I don't want to ruin my original. And there we go. All right, so now we've got my part, and you'll see what I did here. So this is the leg, and you see I just glued it down a little bit to create a fill hole, and that also keeps it from moving around in the mold while I'm pouring the rubber. So I have this dab of glue that glued it down, and I also glued it down on this end so that I'd have two definitive ports, and then I can just take off that piece of glue. And then I had another piece, this little piece of plastic here, which I'm going to pull out. And you're probably thinking, well, why did you add that piece of plastic? What's that for? And I'll show you what that's for. There we go. So I had this piece of plastic just kind of glued on to the end here. It's not part of the leg, but what it is notice that we have this little nub here on the bottom of the foot, and I need to make sure that when I cast this, plastic goes into that little crevice. But it's but you know, if I'm filling from here or over here, then if air gets trapped there, then it's not going to fill up. So I glued this on so that when I created that mold, now it's got this air channel that goes all the way to the top, which means that the plastic can flow down in and fill up and get all the way through the length of this part. And see, that's the kind of stuff that I didn't used to do. I would put my parts into my into whatever little container I was making my mold, and I would support them with needles, and it would just be completely surrounded with silicone. And then I would try to think about, okay, where is air going to get trapped? How am I going to fill it? And what I have learned from painful repeated failures is to think about where the air is going to get trapped and create vents for those. And one thing that you can do is look at the sprues that parts in model kits come from. Model kits are great because when you get a model kit, all the parts are still on the sprues. These sprues give you an excellent idea of the dynamics of flowing plastic, because these injection molds work the same way. And every one of these channels of plastic that doesn't go into your part, you know, none of this is in the final part of the thing that it's meant to be. This is all here just so that plastic can get injected in here and then spread around. And notice that they've got all of these channels where the parts will be suspended in between, but they'll go in and they'll fill up the cavity here, and they'll also fill up in there, and they've got all of these different channels that make sure that the plastic can flow in evenly and fill every space in this mold. And so as I've been creating these molds, I'm adding sprues which give the air somewhere to go. So and I save these because I'm using these to make my sprues. I'm actually gluing on, you know, that's what this little piece of plastic that I added to the end of this leg is. In fact, that's also what this leg is. This leg is a piece of this plastic sprue that I just cut off of the bottom here. And so I sculpted it, and I built it up, and so that's the shape that I want. And now this becomes Della Duck's foot, which let's show this on the other camera. So that is Della Duck's foot, at least the shape. And then we go like that, and that is the axe. I think that's cool. I look at that and it makes me smile. So, yeah, that is her foot. We've got one more mold that we want to take apart here. And this is a mold of the hair. Now, I have actually sculpted 2 sets of hair by hand. The hair's the hardest part for me to make when doing one of these figures. It takes a long time. And getting it just right is finicky. So and also because I have to cut off the hat, then you have to make sure that the hair specifically fits the shape of the head where you cut off the hat. So I just hand did that, and then I picked the one that I thought had the better universal shape, like a shape that would fit a pretty much anyone who's trying to do this on their own. And I picked that one to mold. And so we have that, and now the hair is made out of Super Sculpey. Well, it's bakeable modeling clay. Actually, I think that the brand that I used was FEMA. I haven't really noticed a difference in the performance of FEMA versus Super Sculpey. It's modeling clay. It's bakeable modeling clay. And you can see that the hair's in there, but look at these 2 little things right there. That is where, so Della Duck, her hair comes across and there's a little dip there, and then it cuts up, and then it goes a little further, and then it dips down here. Well, I added more sprues at those places to create air channels for the hair. So once again, I think that with this one, here's what we're going to do. We're going to remove the cardboard. And I got more silicone on my cat. That's important. And get rid of some of this stuff here, just because I don't like it. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna pull out my little plastic bits, maybe. There we go. So yeah, once again, this is just sprue material from that model kit. Okay, and now I'm going to cut apart the mold. And I have to think about this. How do I want to cut it apart? Where do I want the mold to separate? I'm thinking that since the hair goes around the back of the head and then comes up like this, and then there's this big space on the inside of the hair that is just head. What I want to do is I want to come around the side edge of the hair. So I can see this is the bottom of the hair right here. And let's go ahead and switch to the side camera. So I've got to do this very carefully because I really don't want to screw up my my original. And I can feel the hair right there. Now, I'm going to try, and see, this is tricky. I'm going to try to create a little bit of a tooth pattern as I cut down, because that will help the different halves of the mold align when you close the mold. I don't feel the mold anymore. Wait, there it is. There it is. Okay, so I've cut on that half, and then I'm gonna do it again here. And all right. Notice that I didn't just blindly cut the mold in half. I just kind of made a Pac-Man so that I could open it. Okay, so now I can see where it didn't cut through all the way in there. So I'm going to go in very carefully with my hobby knife, and I'm just going to release that a little. There we go. And now I open up the mold. There we go, just like that. And it looks like the original broke, which is unfortunate. But there's the mold. So it's unfortunate that my hair broke. You know, that's too bad. But it's a nice clean break. You can see that I can get it back together. And so I can glue this back together. I can glue this back together, and I can probably still use it on the final model. But we now have a mold of it, which means that I can also make a casting of that, and I could use that casting as well. So I now have options. And boy, this cat is heavy when he's been on your lap for an hour and a half. Oh gosh, he doesn't like it when I switch legs, but I just switched the legs. I'm sorry. Are you mad? Are you mad? You're giving me that look like, hey, you moved. I don't really approve of that. There you go. Sweet kitty. Oh, yeah. Oh, is that the stuff? Is that the stuff? Oh. Yeah. Shake it off, pal. That's good. Sweet kitty. He is a sweet kitty. He's my friend. You my friend. You are my friend. Yeah. Oh. He's gonna get up and leave in about a minute because I moved and he doesn't like it. Oh, he's mad. Are you getting a little feisty? Are you getting feisty? Sweet kitty. Yeah. You're good. You're good. I'm the bad one. I moved my legs. I wasn't supposed to. I'm sorry. That's good stuff. Good stuff. You're such a weird cat, but I love you. All right, so that's enough of cat TV. All right, so let's check the wheelie casting and see how that came out. Oh, he just bit me. He's such a funny cat. All right, so let's go ahead and check out how we did with the wheelie casting. I'm hopefully using the syringe made a big improvement. And once again, it's all about getting the mold out of the little thing. Which is tricky. It is. There we go. We got a little bit of a. Okay. See, the nice thing is I can squeeze it and pucker it. And now, there we go. So we got it out of the portion cup. And then once again, I'm gonna. Boy, oh, that's. You know, this casting resin is pretty tough once it's a little bit thicker. There we go. So we have a broken piece of that. And here goes Wesley. He's like, "Oh, did I block your exit?" There you go. Bye, Wesley. I love you. He's like, "Whatever. If you loved me, you wouldn't have shifted your legs." Cats have very high standards for love. Like, you should have been able to put up with that leg cramp for at least another 3 hours. Boy, that is really tough. That is just tremendously tough. Well, let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna pull off that bottom piece. Oh, if so, like I said earlier, the wheelie windshield mold is the first mold that I created in years. Honestly, I just haven't done a whole lot of molding, and I do have to say that if I had it to do over again, I would do the wheelie mold just a little bit differently. Maybe not such a deep mold. I might try to do it a little bit more flat and not have all of this kerfuffle happening. And you know, if I don't get good parts out of this, then maybe I'll just make a new mold. I can do that. I still have the original part. So, all right. So I've disconnected the piece that was molded in there. It flew somewhere. Oh, there it is. So here is that base piece of plastic. The color looks good. That is really, really close. That is just about spot on. So that is pretty cool. And with that broken apart, that means that I can pull out this windshield without having to worry about the back half of the fill line. And oh, looky there. This is the big reveal right here. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, that is a nice casting. Yeah. See, that's what you want. And I can I can cut off these places where I glued on the air holes, but this is an exact reproduction of what I put in there. You see how I stuck that hot glue on there? It molded hot glue. Look at that. So that is a wheelie windshield. Oh, I feel good about this. This is exciting. Wheelie now has a windshield. And I'm just going to cut off a little bit of the flash here. And Ty Guy says, looking pretty clean despite not having been filed yet. Yeah, I know. It's this is a nice casting. This is, and see, that's the advantage with molding. You can create really nice looking parts with beautiful surfaces. The surfaces can be as clean and well defined as your original parts, and that's what's really cool. Oh, there's tiny air bubble just on the edge of this. We'll see if I can clean that up, because most of this really looks pretty good. So casting resin, like I said, it is still more brittle than the plastics they use for these toys. It is not the same as injection molded plastic. It's okay, you know, it's fine for making models and stuff like that, but do understand that it's not going to take the same level of abuse that an injection molded toy is going to take. And you know, there's upsides and downsides to that. One of the upsides is that I can go through here with an X-Acto knife and just cut off that those bits that I added to create air holes. And it would be easy for me to sand this. And if I wanted, I could paint it. This plastic takes paint reasonably well. So you know, there are options there. And just using a hobby knife in exactly the wrong way. You know, I don't feel good about that right here. I'm cutting on a surface now rather than on my finger, because that is how I end up with leaking fingers. But there we go. There we go. So I've cut off my air channels, and things are looking pretty good. Yeah, that is pretty good. Let me just get this little bit of flash here. All right. So here's the part partially cleaned up, and you can see that is a wheelie windshield. And then we take our wheelie that's missing a windshield and we just snap it in there, and look at that. Now I can still clean up the edges a little bit, but you compare that, and boy, you know, they're close. I noticed a little bit of a swirl in here. I guess I should have mixed it just a little bit better. So I may try to make one more casting. We'll see. But it's looking pretty good. It's looking really good. I'm really happy with that. And so, you know, a little bit of very, very fine sanding with some high grit sandpaper, and just a little bit of detail tweaking, and that may be the part. that may be the part. And, you know, if I decide that it isn't the part, then I'll make another casting. But there it is. I'm wondering if we want to do a quick casting of Della's leg and her foot, and just do those real quick. Do we want to do that? And Ty Guy says nearly spot on. Yeah, I'm feeling good about that. So let's go ahead and I want to. Oh yeah, my syringe is well. Let's see, that came off. Can I do this? Can I get the? Come on, work with me here. Oh yeah, that's what we want. So we can just take this off. There we go. And we can push that right out. Ooh. I'm breaking my stick. Whoops. Okay, this is not the right way to do this, but it's not the solid part. Oh gosh. Okay, well, you know, I've got another syringe. Got more syringes. I bought a multi-pack on purpose so I'd have more syringes. And this is mostly just because I'm really curious to see how my foot and my leg molds turned out. I'm hoping that they turned out really well. Hope, hope, hope. Because the legs, the leg also, the robot leg is also a lot of work. That, you know, molding, carving that shape and getting that to work last night actually took a lot longer than I wanted it to. Now, that part of that could have been because I was still kind of in recovery mode and not necessarily moving at full speed, but it's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen to make that work. All right, so I got my mixing cup. Boy, my area is turning into a mess. But those are problems for later. That is a later clay problem. That is not a current clay problem. So, all right, we're doing one more casting, and here's what we need to do. Now, we've got a hole here, and I need to make sure that that hole doesn't like leak stuff all over the place. I want so. Okay, hold on. Be right back. So here's what I'm going to do. Got my hot glue gun. Oh. We're going to get that warming up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug the bottom of this with hot glue, but I'm going to leave the top open because I still want air to be able to get through there and you know, fill up that space, but I don't want the plastic to be coming out the bottom because then I'm going to have a real big mess on my hands. So we've got that. We've got our foot. Della Duck's robot leg is gray. We've gotten really good at making gray. So we're going to make more gray. And I've got a syringe ready. So that's important. Got more little pieces of plastic everywhere. That's not nearly as important. I've got a stick for mixing. And there we go. And let's just kind of clear some space over here for the molds. What I'll do is I'll just turn my sacrificial surface around. There we go. Now all the junky stuff is over here. There. All right, and we've got 2 molds. And so at this point, we are just waiting for the hot glue gun to warm up. Rob S. is here. Hello, Rob. Thank you for joining us. He says, darn it, was busy doing other stuff and only just now saw the notification that I was online. So we're molding parts. And we have created... So I don't know if you remember, but Ty Guy was talking about wanting to get his very own Gen 1 wheelie. Well, we got him one, and it was missing the windshield. So I made, so I made molds of my wheelie's windshield, and I just cast this one, and it still needs some cleanup, but that's not looking too bad. And so Ty Guy is going to get a wheelie with a custom-made copy of my wheelie's windshield. And so I've just been talking about mold making and the stuff that I use, and showing my my admittedly kind of awkward mold for a wheelie windshield. So. And now we're about to make a Duck robot leg. So we have, here I'll show this. So we have Duck's robot leg, which as you can see, turns into an axe. And that's important. So, yeah, we are making the pieces of that robot leg. And in the process, we're going to find out how well the molds that I made turned out. So, let's see. Okay, I think that we are at the point of liquid. Or maybe not. It feels warm. It looks shiny in there. So I got a burn on my chin right here last weekend, and now you're seeing why, because I end up doing stuff like this where I'm holding it real close and then I have to move it, and then I touch my chin with a really hot glue gun, and that's a really stupid injury to get. Okay, I'm just gonna say, as somebody who has done it, it's really, really dumb. And it's really bad when you have to tell your boss, because you're on a video conference with him and you've got this big dark scab on your chin, and he says, oh, what happened to you? And you have to say, I burned myself in the face with a glue gun. And the only reason I get away with it is because he knows me. He understands. But nonetheless, yeah. So, I'm trying. There we go. There we go. So, and whoa, 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 whoa. There. Okay, so just a little dab of hot glue on the bottom. Not enough to fill the whole channel, just enough to ideally plug the bottom of that hole. That's something that I'm probably going to have to deal with every single time I use this mold. And, you know, if I had been thinking more when I made the mold, I would have made sure that it didn't poke out the top when I filled it, so that I wouldn't have this problem. But I did let it poke out because I wasn't thinking about it. And, you know, that was the thing where this was the top, so I filled it, and I saw that piece sticking out there, and at the time I'm thinking, okay, that's good, that'll be an air hole. It's like, no, 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 no. The air hole is on this side. This is a leak. But I just... So, oh, thank you, Rob. Rob says that he's glad that I'm feeling better. I am feeling a lot better. Shot number 2 is rough. All right, so we're going to do this. And so we've got our molds set up here. And we've got a fill hole here. And this is an open-faced mold. So we don't even have to worry too much about that. I've got my little cup right here. I've got my mixing stick. I've got my syringe. So let's start once again with the liquid plastic. And you know, these labels, here's the other thing that I've noticed. Now, I've been keeping my mold making rubber in the box, but notice that these labels, like at a glance, they look the same. It would be super, super easy to grab the rubber instead of the plastic. The only way that I know, it says liquid plastic, but other than that, it looks the same. So just make sure before you go too far with anything that you're using the actual material that you want to be using. So, I guess I'm going to keep going with the amount that I've been using. It's probably more than what I need, but it should work. So there we go. Filling to the line. And we'll set that down. And now we want a little bit of the enamel black that we've been using. So that's right here. And that's been working pretty well. If I mix it enough. So we got a drop of that and blip. And then we'll do another drop of that. And then blip. And maybe this time we'll do the third drop for Della's leg. All right, so to catch you up, Rob, I am using black enamel paint to tint the, oh, and I'm splattering it all over the place. Well, that sucks. I'm using black enamel paint to tint my mold making, or my casting plastic. And I'm just stirring. This is a bright white plastic, so by adding the black paint, I can get it to come out gray. That's how we got Rob's, or Ty Guy's windshield, the color that it is. Names are hard, especially when you're thinking about several things at the same time. Alright, so I'll set this down. There we go. And set that down, and I'm going to unplug that glue gun because I keep bumping into it and I don't want to have a hot glue gun fall on my foot. And there we go. We got a little bit of stuff there on the surface there, so we'll wipe that up. And a little bit of stuff there. We'll wipe that up. And oh good, some plastic resin on the keyboard. That won't cause problems. This is why I can't have nice things. Alright, and now part B. Mix in some part B. And we're going to go up to the top of that line. And there we go. Close that up. All right, so we'll mix this up. Try and mix it thoroughly. And I'm mixing for about 30 seconds because it sets up in about 3 minutes. And we've been mixing for about 20 seconds. And there we go. We are at 30 seconds. So take that out. And then we'll put in the syringe and draw the fluid up into there. And then try to get out as much of the air as we can. There we go. And now I switch views, and we're going to inject liquid plastic into the leg mold. And look at that. That is what we want. That's perfect. Okay. And then we'll fill this. I'm going to overfill it a little bit. And I guess I'm going to put the rest, I'm going to squirt the rest of the plastic in there. And I hate wasting so much. I wish I had another mold ready to go, but I do not. This time I'm just going to try to evacuate the syringe as much as I can, rather than letting it harden in the syringe. Okay, and let's go ahead and try to tap out any bubbles. Yeah, a little flexing of the mold. I don't think that we're going to get any bubbles. I think that we're in pretty good shape. I'm hoping, at least. Hoping. Good news is that hot glue plug that I put in the bottom of the mold is working. It's not leaking, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and it's starting to thicken. I can tell. Yeah. So that. Yeah. See how that's thickening up? That's good. Oh, and Wesley's decided to come back. So that's important. Wesley, did I not leave you enough of a route to get back and forth on the table? So Wesley's here. There he is. Hi there. Don't knock my Della foot off of the desk. There we go. Okay, and yep, here he comes. And he sees himself on the screen, and he was momentarily interested, and then he decided that he's not. Do you want back on here? There we go. There we go. Somebody got plastic in your fur. Poor cat. Poor kitty. There we go. Oh, and we're seeing the reaction happen. Here we go. So, look, you can see that this is turning gray. That's good. And I can feel the heat coming off of this too. That's really, really cool. So that is starting to harden up, and also Wesley has laid down. So there he is. There you are, little cat. There you go. There you go. Is that good? Is that good? Who's that handsome cat on the screen? Hmm? You don't care. You don't care. Just as long as I... I love Wesley. He's my friend. All right, it's taking a little bit longer. I must have used a little bit more of one than I did the other. In general, the part A is usually the resin and the part B is usually the hardener, so maybe I used a little bit less of the part B in proportion to the part A. I'm not sure. I'm kind of pulling things out of my tuchus. But it is starting to kick. You can see that that this is starting to change color, and also the paint that I added could be having a little bit of an effect on the drying time. Not sure, but that is, like I said, that's one of the things that is both an advantage and a disadvantage of the way that I do things. I experiment. I'm always trying stuff, and I'm always trying to see if there's other ways of doing things, and you know, because you talk to people who know this stuff and who do this stuff a lot, and very oftentimes you'll run into people who feel like there is a proper way, and that the proper way is the only way. And I've never, I have respect for people who go through the process of learning this stuff, and they live it and they breathe it and they know the right way, and they invest money in getting the right stuff and the right equipment, the right materials, the right supplies, and doing everything by the book. But there are some things in the world where you don't necessarily need that level of precision. And while a manufacturer certainly has its recommended procedures for how to use their products and get the best results, and if you don't follow those procedures and you don't get those good results, then don't turn around and say, oh, this product's crap. You know, I'm not going to complain about Smooth-On's plastic being bad if I mix stuff with it that you're not supposed to mix with it, and then it comes out bad. That's on me. That's not on the product. But I think that a lot of course, manufacturers don't want you to be using their products in ways that aren't intended, because then you get unintended results, which on the low side of things just means your project doesn't work properly. Their product doesn't do what it's supposed to do because you didn't do it right. On the high side of things, depending on what it is, you could end up doing something dangerous, and you don't want to do that. So, while I don't advocate taking chances, I do think that respectful experimentation is great, just as long as you understand that your experiment can fail. You know, when you do stuff that is not to spec, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's okay, because you tend to learn a lot more from the stuff that doesn't work than you do from the stuff that does. So, oh, there's Sean Shago. Hey, Sean, you probably should have been on this live stream a lot sooner, because just so that everybody knows, Sean Shago just entered the chat, and he's one of those guys that knows this stuff really well. And he'll give you textbook definitions and stuff like that about what each chemical is and what it's for and why it is and everything. And so for all the parts where I was saying, you know, I use this and I think this, he would have been like, yes, that's correct, or no, Clay, you're being an idiot. That's not at all that. Also, just as a side note, Wesley is now afraid of the tape dispenser. Yeah, he's fussing with what are you doing? Oh, it's a measuring tape. He's trying to eat the measuring tape. So that Sean says that he knows just enough to be dangerous. I know that feeling. What did you? Okay. Well, Wesley was getting into something, and I don't think that it's something that he liked. Oh no. Oh. I think Wesley got sick on the dragon. Okay, well, that's really gross. So we're just going to check on these molds and see how close we are to them kicking. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was very distracting. I couldn't see what Wesley was doing, and we have a third-party Cryotech, which I am personally going to clean and sterilize, because I think he kind of got a little bit sick on it. That's not good. So, yeah, this is what happens. And Ty Guy says, cat's gonna cat. They sure are. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at the surfaces. So you can see, generally with the liquid plastic, the stuff where you have greater concentrations tends to harden faster than the areas of lesser concentrations. It's kind of counterintuitive because, you know, with things that are just drying, of course, the things with lesser concentrations, like you know, there's a little droplet of water, it'll dry up a lot faster than a whole puddle. But because these plastics are undergoing a chemical reaction, then the chemical reaction tends to be a bit faster on the sides where there's more of it and more heat to accelerate that chemical reaction. So we have this stuff which is feeling pretty solid, and that just broke, but that's fine. And then we've got our mold here with and I'm just gonna I don't want to pull that off, but what I can do is I can do this. So you can see that this plastic is still a little pliable. I'm going to leave it alone for a little bit longer because I don't want to deform my parts. Let's check this one. And let's see what we got. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a Duck robot foot. Look at that. It could use just a little bit of cleanup, but that is a distinctly Duck robot foot. I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. That looks really good. And we have this one here. Let's see where we're at with it. I'm going to peel off my little piece of glue and just give it a little push from underneath. There we go. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Oh, okay, so my mold just needs to be cut a little bit. Yeah, look at that. So let me just... There we go. And there is her robot leg. It's not too bad. It's not perfect, but that is not too bad, and I'll be able to clean that up. And this part down here will just get cut off. So we have that. And then we can also cut off this part. Now, I know from experience that these parts will get more rigid with a little bit of time, but that is a Duck leg. Look at that! Huh? I'm really happy with that. And a little bit of an air bubble there. Got just a little tiny air bubble there. I can probably deal with that. And then, of course, we have the axe feature, which is just like that. And that is really cool. That is really cool. We now have the ability to make Deladuck robot legs. That's cool. That is cool. So Sean is asking if the mold is tin or platinum. These are platinum. And let's see. He says the only somewhat affordable printer I've used to date that can get that kind of res is the Formlab. Okay, this is going to take you back, Sean. I hand sculpted. I built these parts, and I'm casting them. These are not printed molds. These are poured molds. And as you may remember, I was never a master molder, but I'm doing it, and it seems to be working with a certain amount of success. So, yeah, we now have a wheelie windshield, and oh yeah, even just in the minute that I've been talking, it is made itself much more rigid. And we have a Deladuck foot. And so that's pretty awesome. So I think I'm going to stop there. We've had some success. I've gotten to show a little bit of my process. If you have questions, especially later on, if you have questions, or if you're watching this video later and it's no longer live, and you have questions or comments, then please just put them in the comments, and I'm glad to answer questions and things like that. Again, a reminder, I'm not sponsored by Smooth On or anyone else for that matter. Doesn't mean that I couldn't be, a little ringy dingy. So if you're wondering about this stuff, you haven't done it, and or you're maybe in the middle of a project and you're just curious about things, please feel free to reach out, and I'm always happy to try and answer questions, and I will admit when I don't know something. So, Sean asked the questions. Have you tried making any parts with polyester body filler? Not for these projects. I have used a lot of polyester body filler, of course, for automotive stuff, but for these little kitbashes, I've been using. Well, actually, this is the first time that I've done any molding in years. But I needed to duplicate Wheelie's windshield, and I needed to make a couple of these kit-bashed action figures, and I thought, well, this is a good time to get out the molding stuff, or, well, okay, order some molding stuff, and flex those molding muscles, and maybe apply some of what I've learned over the years, and see if I can get better success than what I had way back in the day. So I have used the USC icing. The thing is that on a lot of the kind of stuff that I do, it's very, very tiny work. And the USC icing is great. It's great for filling in and getting nice smooth surfaces, but it's thicker, which is an advantage for a lot of projects. But for like fixing a GoBot, it's a lot easier to use super glue and baking soda than like USC icing. But nonetheless, Sean is making very, very good suggestions, and especially if you're doing prop making and larger projects, things where you're not just working with things that are this tiny. Using polyester body filler and using icing and things like that can really give you some fantastic results. So that's where we're at. But I've got some cat mess to clean up. I'm not really looking forward to that, but that's what I got to do. And so I am going to leave you here. So I hope that you've enjoyed this this kind of impromptu Kitbashing 101 session. And like I said, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then please consider subscribing, because we do all kinds of these videos related to retro toys and fixing them, and sometimes kit bashing them, and reviewing them and upgrading them and all sorts of stuff. So that's what we do usually every week. On Friday evenings at 8 o'clock Eastern United States time. We do live streams that are based on various different themes. We just did one based on Masters of the Universe, and coming up we're going to be doing one all about characters voiced by Frank Welker, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, and for those who don't know, Gen 1 Megatron, Frank Welker. A bunch of Gen 1 characters, Frank Welker. A bunch of cartoon characters from all over the place, Frank Welker. And so we're going to just have some fun talking about all the different, not all, but a bunch of the characters that he has done voices for. So that's going to be cool. And with that, this is Clay Carlino telling you to keep it retro bot. That's right. Keep it retro bot. Because we're retro bot. Says so on the retro bot. That's in the little picture. He has Retrobot on his face. So we like to keep it there, and that's how you keep it retro bot. And thank you, Tracy. Tracy says I did a great job on this.